are going to start a few minutes late because of the accident on the road and people who have had to take a detour. So we won't start too late, obviously, just a few minutes, but feel free to sit and chat to each other. Thank you. Morning to all of you. We are still expecting a few people, but what we're going to start with is a short slideshow that has been prepared of Chris, of Dad, of Granddad. So let's just sit and watch that and enjoy it in the moment. Aren't photographs wonderful? We can just look back on them and be reunited with people who have passed on. And today it's for Chris. And we very much would like for this to be a celebration of Chris's life. We want to smile, we want to laugh, and we will cry, and there will be tears. But just enjoy your morning with the family, and it's lovely to see a full chapel. So as I said earlier, Chris, a dad, a grandfather, and his career as an engineer. Chris wore many hats in his time. What a beautiful setting we have out here on your right. It really is lovely. And I went to take a photograph earlier of the koi, and there are lots of koi in the water. Enjoy them. Let's stand and sing the beautiful hymn, Amazing Grace. so that we don't have my doing too much talking. And if you look at the program, I think I'm going to be doing quite a bit of talking today. But I have chosen a few verses of very beautiful passages from the Bible. I'm going to read parts of these scriptures and just say something about them. And they're probably all so well known to each one of you. Psalm 23, the most beloved psalm of all. I'm reading from verses 1 to 3 and verse 6. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And in Chris's room at Fair Trees in the frail care, where unfortunately he didn't stay long enough, Mandy put up the most beautiful, beautiful image of literally what we're looking out on. A river, some hills, some trees, so much beauty, so much glory to our Lord. And I can't help but think we've been transformed from that room at Fair Trees to what we have next to us today. The next psalm that I'm going to read is from Psalm 46 and verses 1 to 5. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her. She will not fail. God will help her at break of day. Such a difference to Psalm 23 when we hear the turbulence and the crashing of the mountains. And then we end with the beautiful words, God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at break of day. And I am ending off going to the New Testament and reading from the book of Romans, chapter 14, and verses 8 to 9. If we live for the Lord, and if we die for the Lord. So whether we live or die, we belong to the Lord. For this very reason, Christ died and returned to life, so that he might be the life and the Lord of both the dead and the living. As Chris's neighbour at Fair Trees, we spent a lot of time together while he was ill. And Chris asked me a lot about my Christianity, and we spoke openly about it. And he wanted to find out where he stood. And I can assure you that Chris's heart is looking down on us from heaven. And that is a blessing in itself. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Precious Lord, We read in the book of Matthew and chapter 11, verse 28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Lord, we know how tired Chris was. He was also tired of being hospitalized, and each time having to rebuild his strength, only to become ill again. Thank you, precious Father, that you came and took Chris, one of the sheep of your pasture. You took him, Lord, before his suffering became too much for him, and you have laid him now to rest. We thank you, Lord, for these glorious things. In your precious name, Amen. So, life for Chris at the village. And I'm going to start briefly by using the letters of his name. I promise you, I won't use Christopher. And we start with C. And I wasn't sure what to use for C. And I simply used clubhouse. Because even though Chris and I were neighbors, we shared more time chatting together. I would be walking my little dog past the clubhouse. Chris would be taking his containers for lunch to the clubhouse. And at 11:30, if I was walking my little dog later in the morning, Chris would be walking back from the clubhouse. And I'd like the C to stand for Chris. H. Chris had a great sense of humor, as we all know. I said to him when paging through some photograph albums, "Gee, Chris, you've got a wicked look on your face in some of these photographs." And just last Sunday, can you believe, probably a week ago to the time, we were talking politics in his room at the Fair Trees Frail Care. And I moved over to Trump. And as you all know, Trump is either someone we love or he is somebody we're not so very fond of. So I said to Chris, I said about Trump, I said, do you know that they've been trying to find out if he's left-brained or if he's right-brained? And they looked at the left side of his brain and there was nothing right. And they looked at the right side of his brain and there was nothing there. So humor, isn't that the most wonderful thing that any one of us can ask for? And when we look at the photos behind me of Chris, he's smiling. And through the slideshow, Chris is smiling. How lovely to be able to say that. And the R stands for resident. And Chris has been, or had been, Chris had been a resident at Fair Trees for 13 years, he was telling me. And that is indeed a long time. And he was on the Board of Trustees, and I believe, although it didn't come from Chris, I believe he has quite a bit to say at AGMs and at other meetings, but we won't go into that. I'll tell you one thing about Chris. Chris was not somebody to ever talk ill of other people. I had no idea in the village who he had anything against. I just know that when we chatted, he loved everybody. And although in the last 18 months he was rather quiet in the village, he appreciated everything that the body corporate did at the village. The I is for intelligent. Chris was a highly intelligent person, and also he was very interesting to speak to. I learned so much about Chris because I knew squat about engineering. So that was something that I enjoyed about him. And the S for special. Chris has a special place for each one of you here. And as I've said, he wore many hats. Your family, all of you, family members, seated here this morning, Chris loved you so, so much. I cannot tell you. Mandy, Benny, Mike, Glynis, Brandon, who I will tell you about just now, and Kelly. Oh my word, he was so, so proud of each one of you. And to Rolf, who I have met this morning, and to any other family members who I haven't met, but I hope to meet with you afterwards. At the end of last year, I said to Chris, Chris, I'm not going away for Christmas. Are you doing anything? And he said, geez, Anne, he said, Mandy wants me to go camping. And he said, I don't know if I can do that stuff. He said, I like my comfort. I like to know where I am and where the toilet is, and I'm not going to have to dig a little hole. He said, I don't think this camping is for me. But I kept speaking to Mandy, and Chris went off camping. And when he came back, I went next door. Chris opened the door, and I said, Chris, how was the camping? And his words to me were, fantastic. He had loved it. And to each member who went camping with Chris, well done. That will be his last holiday. It is his last holiday, and it was fantastic. When he came out of hospital, Mike and Mandy did an enormous amount of work, putting together his bedroom in the lounge. And that is what I will choose when I grow older, if I am given the chance. It was friendly, it was warm, he could lie down and sleep as he wanted, or he could sit in his favorite chair. And I've sat many times now in that favorite chair. And then I walked in one day, and Bongi, you would always say to me, come in, and Chris would welcome me, and I'd go in. And one day, on this table across his bed, Mike, I think you made that table. Benny, you made the most incredible table that just slid across the bed, and I think you should sell it to all hospitals, quite honestly. There's an idea for you. And there were 2 photo albums, and I thought, now, should I say something about photo albums, because I can be here for the next 3 hours, or should I leave it? And I picked up one and I started looking through it. Firstly, it is one of the most beautiful photo albums I have ever seen made as a gift. And I was asking questions so often that I went and sat next to Chris, and we went through those 2 albums together. And he told me stories. To the family, I know many stories you aren't aware of that I know about you. But it was lovely. And when I got there 2 days later, there was another album. And he'd said, you know, Annie enjoyed those photo albums so much. Can I have another one? And that took time for Chris to dwell on his whole family from his very early days, as we saw in the slides, to where he is now. lying, "Come ye who are weary and heavy laden, I will give you rest." And I met Mike and Glynis. I hadn't met them before. And Chris told me about Brandon, his grandson, and being myself, I have a history, a past of sport is my absolute passion. And I'm hearing about Kelly and her golf, and I'm hearing about Brandon on his yacht, this luxurious yacht in the Caribbean. And I asked Chris about the yacht. What size, what length? I asked Chris about Kelly's handicap for golf, and he said, "Geez, Anne, do you have to be so complicated about sport?" But Chris did love his cricket. I can assure you of that. And I'm an ardent cricket fan as well. So we laughed together. And I'm just so happy that last Sunday, as I said, we were laughing and chatting. I popped over on Tuesday. I looked through the door the first time it had been closed, and I saw Chris lying on his bed with the oxygen mask over him, and I saw the interleading room to frail care had been opened. And I thought for the first time, just leave him and let him sleep, because usually he asked me that if I went over to wake him up. And I texted Mandy, and she said that she had opened the door, and because of the lawn mowing people, he didn't want all the leaves blowing in, so they closed the door and they left him alone in peace. And I'm pleased that I did that. But on Wednesday, I was in Bloberg, and I had this urge to get back to Fairtrees. And I visited 2 of the elderly residents of frail care, and I rushed my visits with them. And just after 4 o'clock, I went down to visit Chris. And I went to visit Chris, and once again his door was closed. He was lying on his bed with the oxygen mask over him, and I walked in. I drew the chair closer, and I sat next to Chris, and I just spoke to him. I think I pretty much knew that he couldn't hear me, but it didn't matter. It doesn't matter. I chatted to him as on any other day. I could hear his breathing was labored. I held his hand, and I prayed over him, and I left him. And just a few hours later, Mandy, and thank you so much, Mandy texted me to say that Chris had passed on to beautiful pastures. No more suffering. And we know that he is now in a place of rest. Ralph, could I call on you to come up and talk about your stories to do with Chris? And then Mike, you just follow, and Kelly, you just follow after Dad. I'd like to say one thing. Tears are for joy. Tears are for sadness. Feel free to cry. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of. And I've brought a box of tissues, and for those who are speaking, the box is under here, and it's green to blend in with all the green that was Chris's favorite color. And please feel free to use them. And feel free to cry while you are talking. Thank you, Rolf.
Good morning. My name is Ralph Percy Savage. I'm one of the English side of the family, the Erasmuses and the Jabez. And the family's always known that Chris was a sexy person. And I'm the longest living person who knew Chris. And now I'm amazed that for 13 years he had a girlfriend that we know nothing about. And I would like you to talk to her over a cup of coffee, Mike, and find out more about what went on in that old age village. I'm Chris's brother-in-law, and it is my privilege to honour and say some words about Chris. I first met Chris when I noticed him stalking Beth, Maureen's sister. No, but that's not true. He wasn't stalking her. He was in love with her, Elizabeth Catherine Joubert. He was in his early 20s, and fortunately he managed to persuade Beth to marry him. Of course, at that stage, she had fallen in love with him too. Chris lived over the railway line on the other side of Main Road, Voortrekker Street in Goodwood, in Epping Garden Village. In those years, it used to be common to regard the people on the other side of the railway line, and I found out later that even in England the same thing applied, that those people were different. And of course, in certain ways, they were inferior human beings. But of course, when I met Chris, there was nothing inferior about him. He was a humble, delightful private man. He was also the spitting image of James Dean. I don't know if anybody knows him when he was like James Dean. A Hollywood actor in the 1950s, 60s, who was in love with just about every woman in Hollywood. I think his future mother-in-law, Marie Joubert, fell in love with him too at that stage. But there was an aunt living next to the family, Auntie Brown, and if Chris never got her approval, he would never have been able to marry Beth. But Chris, being the gentleman that he was, won her over, and he was accepted with flying colours. Maureen's dad and Beth's dad was not well at that stage, and we managed to get him to give his approval to the marriage too. My wife has been at these things and she's mixed it up. Yeah, okay. They got married, of course, and we can't remember where the wedding was. That shows you how long ago that was. I think the service was at the Presbyterian Church in Goodwood, and the after party was at the Moth Hall in Goodwood. Chris started his career as an apprentice at Eskom. Spent the rest of his life working at the Woodstock Power Station until he retired at the age of 55. Chris had many things he did in his own way, and one of these was what interested me early in their marriage was that he had a habit of getting up very early to go to work. He would make 6 or 7 sandwiches, and he would get in his car, drive to Belleville Station, catch a train to Pardon Island Station, and then walk to the power station, which was maybe 3 or 4 kilometers. And he would do that every day. And he would walk in the rain, in the sun, in the darkness of the morning. That was Chris. He did things that were what he wanted to do. And Chris was one of those gifted, hard-working men that kept the lights on, that made Eskom the #1 in the world for its efficiency. And as a family, we give honor to Chris for his contribution to Eskom. Chris was also a black belt judo expert. And he didn't only concentrate on his own expertise, he spent many hours training other people. I cannot remember Chris and Beth ever displaying an angry exchange during the time we were with them, which was their whole married life. But Beth was a party girl of note, and Chris adored her. I could spend hours talking about Beth, but I'm talking about Chris now. So we then moved to Pretoria in 1967, and it was 13 years later that we came back to Cape Town and lived obviously quite close to Chris and Beth. Chris at that stage was a wonderful father and was involved in everything his children did. Mandy and Michael were doing at school. Mike played rugby. I can't believe that, but anyway. He spends most of his spare time sleeping, his dad. And Mandy did dancing and gymnastics. I can remember seeing Mandy at Newlands Ground doing her jumping around and supporting the Western Province team, not the Stormers, the Western Province team. And Chris was always there. He drove them to all these functions. Beth, at that stage, wasn't very well. She'd had a couple of setbacks. And then along came Kelly and Brandon, and of course, that just made the last few years of Chris' life amazing. He doted on those children. And of course, his favorite was, I think, a little girl called Kelly, a little blonde girl called Kelly. And one thing that I do remember is babysitting Kelly and Michael. And if ever there was going to be a murder in the family, it was Michael was going to be murdered. He screamed all night. And I said to Maureen, there's something wrong with this child. Yeah, but Kelly, of course, was very honoured to be able to get a scholarship from Ernie Els when she was playing golf. And she then was also given a scholarship at a college or a university in America. And she played golf there. And just like most women, she came back to South Africa, met somebody called Johan, and married him. And that was Kelly's career over. We were writing up letters of congratulation and how much money she was going to make, but that never happened. But back to Chris. He was a humble and caring man, and he made all of our lives better for his life with us. He was a Christian and a member of the Presbyterian Church in Belleville. Farewell, dear Chris. You are safely in the arms of your Creator. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. Oh. Yes, the rugby player. Thank you all for coming today. Chris must have had a profound impact on a lot of people, judging by all of you making the effort to come today. Just something that was Mandy mentioned to me 2 days ago about numbers. I said, what are you talking about numbers? And so she mentioned the number 5. The number 5 kept on cropping up in my dad's life. When they left Goodwood, they moved to Stellenberg, and they moved to number 5 Fairbairn Road. And then I think there were a few other 5s that came along after that. And then when he moved into the retirement village at Fairtrees, he moved to number 53. What can't remember the road was. And then when towards the end they moved him into frail care, and guess what the number was of the room? Number 5. And then And then Mandy mentioned number 9. Mandy said my dad phoned her the one day when he started having this problems with his lungs, phoned her on the 9th of January, and he passed away on the 9th. So that's just a bit of a weird thing. Sorry? Yeah, can you hear me? Oh. I asked all our friends to celebrate Chris's life, to dress in colourful outfits and whatever. And I had a nice blue, bright T-shirt. And I woke up this morning, I was looking for the shirt, and I found my wolf T-shirt. Much to the dismay of my wife, Glenn. What are you doing? I've always liked this shirt because of the wolf. And when I opened it this morning, I realized I've got to put it on. We're here to celebrate my dad, and I'm glad we've all been laughing, and which is a celebration of his life. My dad and I have shared numerous jokes and weird humor together throughout the years. I think he's the only one that actually got me and got my humor. But I'm a humorous guy, but I'm also quite emotional. So if I start crying and bawling my eyes out, just bear with me. I'll try to get through it all. Back to the wolf. So I put my shirt on this morning, and I just typed in, and the reason I did it is because that is who my dad was. What is the personality and trait of a wolf? Wolves are complex, highly intelligent animals who are caring, playful, and above all, devoted to family. That was Chris. Only a select few other species exhibit these traits so clearly, just like elephants, gorillas, and dolphins. Wolves educate their young, take care of their injured, and live in family groups. And that was Chris. Okay. Ralph Clint's been through my stuff here. Okay, I didn't bring my reading glasses either. Okay, today we gather to celebrate, honor, and remember my father, Chris. He was a true gentleman, as described by many people who had the pleasure of knowing him. He was the heart and soul of our family, and was a family man through and through. And his love for us was the foundation of everything he did. He cherished his wife, our mom, Beth, with a devotion that never wavered, even during the last times when she battled. He enjoyed spending time with all his extended family and friends. To him, family wasn't just a word. It was his purpose, his pride, and his joy. Dad approached life with a meticulous care that set him apart. Whether he was fixing something around the house, offering advice, or simply being there when we needed him, he put his whole heart into it. He had a way of making everything he touched feel thoughtful and complete, like he was crafting a legacy in every moment. And in so many ways, he was. The meticulous side came out. I mean, 2 days before he passed, he was writing down, sitting on his bed, writing in a notebook. And I didn't take note of it until I found it later on. He was writing down all his exercises that he was supposed to do every day in his notebook, in his very neat handwriting. I've never known anyone who kept meticulous records of everything in his life as he did. And we found that out when we were going through all the photo albums. It was all in order, in alphabetical order, and dates and times. That's where we found all the photographs. Let me see where I was. He supported Mandy and me through every step of our lives, cheering us on, guiding us, and picking us up when we stumbled. That same unwavering support extended to Kelly and Brandon, his grandchildren, who brought a special light to his eyes. He was their biggest fan, just as he was ours. It's hard to put into words how much he meant to us, and how deeply we'll feel his absence. Dad's presence was a steady comfort, a rock we could always lean on. He leaves behind a void that can't be filled, but also a treasure trove of memories that we'll carry forever. We'll miss his laughter, his wisdom, his quiet strength, but more than anything, we'll miss the way he loved us so fiercely, so fully, and so unconditionally. Dad, you'll never be forgotten. Dad, Dad, you'll never be forgotten. Your love is woven into the fabric of who we are. And it will guide us every day. We move forward without you here. We love you, Dad, more than words can ever express. Rest in peace. Okay, thanks.
I'm not going to make it, so just bear with me. And I'm very short. How do you do it? I need Eddie. Can you lift Eddie's thing, please, so I can see the child? Okay. Yes, can you? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to attempt this. Okay. Morning, everyone. Oh, yeah. Okay. Today we gather to celebrate the life of an incredible man. It's hard to put into words how much he meant to all of us, because he wasn't just a grandfather, he was the heart of our family. He was a true family man, someone who dedicated his life to making sure we were happy, supported, and cared for. For me and Brandon, he was the most incredible grandfather we could have asked for. He was at every one of my golf tournaments, practices, events, always there to cheer me on. He kept a file of every single competitive round I played and articles I was in, something that still amazes me to this day, and I'll cherish forever. He was just as devoted to Brandon, no matter what sport Brandon played, rugby, soccer, cricket, athletics. Grandpa was there at every event, cheering him on with so much pride and support, always making sure we both knew how proud of us he was. His love didn't just stop with us. He embraced Benny and Stefan with open arms, being just as much a grandfather to them. He truly cherished every moment with all of us, and that's what made him so special, his unwavering love and commitment to his family. I'm beyond grateful for the incredible memories he gave us, for the love he poured into our lives, and for the example he set of what it means to be a truly great man. I'll miss him more than words can say, but I take comfort in knowing that he is at peace and his legacy will live on in all of us. Thank you, Gramps, for everything. I love you, and I will carry you in my heart forever. Shame, I've got a few words from Brandon. Just give me 1 second. Okay, this is Brandon. A few words for Gramps. I'm sure Kelly has already spoken some lovely words about Gramps, so I'm not going to make this too long. As a lot of you know, I have a pretty terrible memory, but there's some things I'll never forget about Grandpa. I'll never forget our sleepovers at the house, playing dress-up with Kelly out of his closet and wearing his judo uniform. I'll never forget watching Cool Cats, WWE, and Grandpa teaching me how to play solitaire and 21 in the study. I'll never forget playing cricket in the driveway and tennis at Stellenberg, our braais by the pool and playing woodshop in the garage. I'll never forget the adventures and the breakfast he'd take me and Kelly on. I'll never forget the amount of times we'd drive to the beach together and the fact that whenever I'd called him with something to do, he never hesitated to come with me. I'll never forget the walks to the park where we'd sit on the swings and he'd tell me about his life and all the different things he was back in the day. A pilot, a rock star, a professional this and a career in that. I'd call him out and he'd say, "It's true." But then we'd both just laugh because we knew it wasn't. But now I realize he made me believe I really could be anything I wanted in this life. And I think that's what stuck with me the most. Age was just a number with him, because I know I never rested when I was younger, and he'd always be there keeping up with me and my activities. Now the time has come for him to finally rest, and I'll always remember him as the wise, loving, playful, and young-hearted man that I'm sure you all know him for. I'll cherish the time we spent together forever, Rest easy, Gramps. I love you.
thought it's going to be easy. Can you hear me? Hi, everybody. Hi. Okay, I'm going to try and speak as much as possible from my heart, but I need to read now and again from my notes. So what I'm going to do is a few thank yous, because that's very, very important. First of all, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the few people. First of all, I would like to thank the Lord. I would like to thank the Lord for Dad's wonderful, wonderful life that he had. The special times that he had with his family and friends, and especially the last few months that he spent with the family and friends was very, very precious. And we had very, very quality times and good times with him. Then I want to thank the doctors, all the doctors and the nurses and the specialists at Panorama Hospital. They were incredible. I want to thank them for looking after my dad and caring for him. Then I want to thank the palliative care group. That was also a group of doctors, nurses, physios that came to his house, that visited him at his house, and with them, we couldn't have done it without this group. It was incredible. And I just want to say a special thanks to Dr. Brunt, Sister Steenkamp, and Linda. She was the social worker. And when Dad went to frail care, they still visited him there. It was incredible. We would never have been able to do this on our own. So I just want to thank them very, very much. Okay. Bongi, come. Cynthia, come up, please. Sorry, everybody, this is very hard for me. These two ladies are very special in our lives. This is Bongi. This is Cynthia. They are angels that came into our family's lives. They were from the palliative care program. They were the two carers that looked after my dad. My dad came home. He was in the hospital for about 3 weeks, and then he came home, and we got Bongi. She was the day carer. Cynthia was the night carer. We had them there for about 2.5 weeks. But I cannot begin to explain to you that what they did for my father. It was absolutely amazing, especially in times of need. They chatted, they watched videos together, they watched movies together, they laughed, they cried together, they shared stories together. My father took out the albums because he wanted to show the albums to everybody. And he sat with them and showed them the photos and who was the family members, and they had such special times. It was absolutely incredible. So these two ladies are very special in our lives, and we love them for what they have done for my father, and they will always be part of our lives, always. And I just want to thank them from me and from our family, from the bottom of our hearts, for everything they did for my father. Okay, you can go. Then after my father was at home for about 2.5 weeks, we realized that, he would get sicker and he would get worse with his condition that he was in, and he could not stay at home anymore and look after himself. It was very hard for me, and I think for Michael as well. He stayed in his house in Fairtrees for, I think, 13 years, and to take him out of his house and put him in a room at frail care was the worst thing for me ever. It was terrible. But after a few days, I realized that he could not stay at home anymore. We had to put him in frail care, that the sisters and the nurses and the carers could be there for him, because we would never be able to look after him at home. So I want to thank the nurses and the carers that made it just easier for him, and it also made it special for him because he lived in the retirement village. He was in the frail care in the retirement village that he lived. So he knew a lot of the carers and the nurses. So that made it extra special. So it sort of felt like home for him. Then I also want to thank Fairtrees Retirement Village for all the love and support and the friends that he made there at the village, and the personnel that was there with him. Then my dad, my dad worked at ESCOM for 35 years. He made very, very special friends, old colleagues. There are some people from ESCOM here today. I want to thank you very much for coming. So old colleagues and friends that have sent messages and calls, I was overwhelmed. A lot of the people, I don't even know who they are, but thank you very much for your messages and your calls. We really appreciate it a lot. And then, of course, Jill. Jill is a very special lady. She's from the Belleville Presbyterian Church. She has been visiting my dad for a few years. From time to time, she pops in, and they have chats, and she prays with my dad. And she visited my dad quite a lot over the last 2 months when he was very ill. So, Joel, I just want to thank you very much for your prayers and your special moments and your time that you took out to come and see my dad. Mike and Glenn, I want to also thank you both very much for your help during this difficult time with Dad, your love and your support. I can't thank you enough. I love you both. Mike also for doing the slideshow, and Kelly putting that together. That was quite a task. I thank you very much. I want to thank Ben and his family also for the support, encouragement, help, love, and all their prayers. For Benny and Stefan, for Bunny, Deline, Colette, Andre, and Marika and Karen. Their whole family have been incredible. Thank you very much. And then I want to thank Anne very much. Anne, thank you very much for conducting the funeral. You've been a very, very special friend to Dad, and that is very special for us. Thank you very much. And then for family and friends, those who could not make it today, I want to thank them for all their messages and all their calls as well. Thank you very much. And I also just want to thank Gary, our cousin in Australia, Dean, our other cousin in the UK, Brandon, that's on the yacht, Marika and Karen, and Benny and Megan that couldn't be here, also for their support and their love. And then I just want to read out a message. Before I read out the message, I want to thank Paul Paul is from Tigerberg Funeral Services. I want to thank him for all his help and organizing everything and for his friendship. He was actually Dad's neighbor in the retirement village, a very, very dear man and a wonderful friend to my dad. So Paul, thank you very much for everything you've done. And then I also want to thank Goed Geleven, Etienne and Charmaine and your whole team for putting everything together, for organizing this day and helping us with the organizing and the beautiful venue. Thank you very much for everything. And please, if I have left out anybody, to you, I say thank you. So I just want to read a short message that I received this morning. This is from Alison and Tosi Marshall. She sent a message to our family this morning, thinking of you all, Erasmus family, for today. This beautiful sunrise was just outside Robertson. She took a beautiful photo of Robertson with the mountains at the back, with the sun shining through the clouds. She said, made me think of just how the sky paints pictures for us and sends us gentle reminders that we are not in control. May the Lord give you all strength as we celebrate darling Chris and say our earthly goodbyes. Sending lots of love to you and Benny, and we're traveling back today and sorry they could not join us. Thank you to everybody.
Benny, I think you're going to have to look after Mandy very, very carefully in the weeks to come. Mandy has been magnanimous in caring for Dad, in coming just about every day. I would look out of my front sunroom and there was Mandy's car. And I know, Mike and Glynis, that you were across the road. So there wasn't a car, but you'd probably hopped over and were inside as well. But Mandy, you've been incredible. We've become good friends, and I have seen what you have done. And I just say, no father could have asked for better than what you gave to Dad. Right, so just to close off, the Paul is right through here, and again, Goed Geleven have gone out of their way to make it presentable for all of us. Go straight through, settle yourselves at a table. You will be served tea and coffee at the tables. There are refreshments. Help yourself to those refreshments, and there is a cash bar available. So don't wait for any announcements. There won't be any. And the music that is being played is Chris's favorite blues and jazz, the music that will be played in the hall. Thank you all for coming and joining the family today.